It's really good. It's really good. It's been a couple months. I know I ain't seen you since last year, but it's all right. I'm looking to be a little bit more consistent. Put up some new videos, reboot a lot of old videos, just with some stuff that I've learned more recently, stuff that I've been more aware about more recently, especially strategically, which is what I'll be going over today, relative to the 7 a.m. pre-market high and low strategy. Okay, this is a strategy that God bless you with the intuition to create and be aware of about a year ago exactly, that I've only made one video on about, and I've been meaning to reboot that video just because I've learned a lot more within this strategy and, learning more stuff and adding more things to it that I want to educate more people on and re-educate people on as well, which is obviously what I'll be going over in this video on. Okay, so let's get straight to it. All right, now, like I mentioned, this is the 7 a.m. pre-market strategy. Okay, this strategy is based on the 7 a.m. pre-market candles, high and low. All right, meaning you'll have to be able to view pre-market or after hours, whatever you want to call it. Some people you can only do that on your phone. Some people you have a web browser platform that you could do it on. Regardless, obviously this is options trading. We are looking for the 7 a.m. pre-market candle. All right, this is going to be based on the high and the low of that 7 a.m. pre-market candle. Okay. Now, the strategy is going to be very similar to the orb strategy because we are looking for a strong break close above or below and a pullback within this overall arrangement to be able to understand when we can take a trade, what's 100% going to be a solid trade so that we can ride the specific direction that clearly price is showing us from this break and closure of whichever direction it wants to break. But there's a couple aspects that go into it strategically, and the main one is going to be based on structure. Okay, so once again, 7 a.m. pre-market candle. We're hopping on the chart. We're finding the 7 a.m. pre-market candle. Sometimes the stock doesn't form it. Sometimes the stock forms a really small one, and sometimes, most of the time, stocks form a really big, drastically sized one, like we see right here on Palantir on the right screen. Of course, all right. Now, once we identify that, and once we mark out the high and the low of that candle, the next thing to take into factor is the overall structural intent, the overall structural understanding. What should be expected based on the structure of the higher time frame of this specific stock? Okay. Now, the reason why this is so important is because depending on that structural direction, that overall structural intent, that determines which direction and which 7 a.m. pre-market high or low we should expect price to break and close above or below, so then we can 100% understand that price should be going in this direction, strategically speaking. Okay. All right. Now going to the hourly time frame on Palantir. Okay. Zooming down and scrolling down, we can clearly see, looking to the left, taking out a factor that, again, this is after hours, but taking in the factor of what is in current trading hours, the overall structural intent is clearly bearish because we can see price clearly continuing to form lower highs and lower lows, lower highs and lower lows. And last time I checked, lower highs and lower lows means bearish because we are moving downwards. Okay. So understanding that overall structural intent on a higher time frame, which is bearish, okay. Now we're going to be going back down to the 5 minute time frame, okay. These are the time frames that we mainly want to play around with, okay, because when it comes to the 7 a.m. pre-market high and low candle, we are looking specifically on the 5 minute time frame for price to break and close above or below those specific levels based on the 7 a.m. pre-market candle, okay. And the hourly time frame, just because most of the times we're looking to get into a trade and get out within the day, okay, just a smaller but still higher time frame, but obviously still taking an even higher time frame like the 2 hour, 4 hour, or daily time frame. But regardless, we're looking at the overall structural intent on a higher time frame of a specific stock to determine which direction we should expect price to break and close, whether that's above or below, depending on the structural intent. Okay, and we're looking for that break and close above or below on the 5 minute time frame. All right. So in Palantir, we went to the hourly time frame. We saw that the structural intent is clearly bearish. We saw the 7 a.m. pre-market candle on the 5 minute time frame. We marked out the high and the low. Now all we need to wait for is a strong break and close below that specific direction, which is the 7 a.m. pre-market low. Only the 7 a.m. pre-market low, and I'll explain why I'm emphasizing that in just a second. Okay. So now we can see that price clearly strongly broke and closed below the 7 a.m. pre-market low, as it should have because the structural intent is bearish. Now the next thing that we need to look for, which is obviously the basics when it comes to getting into a trade, which is we're waiting for a pullback. Okay. Now these pullbacks can either be in general, on the level, or within the range. Okay. But regardless, we're looking for a strong break and close and a pullback. Okay. If you need to go to the 1 minute time frame, go to the 1 minute time frame and look for that pullback so you can get a better entry. Okay. Otherwise, regardless, we're looking for a pullback and a sign of continuation based on the price action of the candles within the continuation, pullback, and recontinuation phase after we've strongly broken and closed below or above whichever level based on the overall structural intent. Okay. Now, again, before we move on to the next example, Palantir structural intent is bearish on the higher time frame, meaning we specifically are strictly only looking for a strong break and close below the 7 a.m. pre-market candle low. We got that. Now we need to wait for a pullback and a sign within the price action that we're actually going to continue after this pullback. Boom, lost momentum on that 5 minute candle, gained momentum on this 5 minute candle, started distributing, had a pullback on the 1 minute time frame right here. We could have got into this trade. It took it all the way down, taking all the obvious liquidity or imbalances all the way to the left. Simple as that. We understood the structural intent on a higher time frame, what we should expect. Okay. We had a break and close above or below, in this case, below the specific structural intended direction. Okay. And then we had a pullback. We saw the price action show that we should continue, and we caught the trade and we made our money. All right. Simple as that. Okay. Now, going to the next example on the left chart is going to be J&J. This is a trade that I actually signaled last Saturday. I'm sorry, put in a watch list on my Discord for free last Saturday, which played out this passing Monday, so last Monday, which ran for 66%, going over $209, and it was an absolutely beautiful move, okay? So first, we're going to look at the hourly time frame, okay? Hourly time frame, we can see that we're clearly very sideways, but still moving pretty bullish, okay? Obviously, this is kind of after hours right here. So taking out of the factor of these kind of after hours moves, the overall structural direction is pretty bullish. Okay. Now, I was mainly looking at the trading view chart in regards to the overall structure, but I'm not going to try and go back and forth between platforms. But regardless, there were certain structural levels and whatnot in the area that if price was strongly breaking above, then we could expect price to rip over 209, which is exactly what price did. Okay. Now, amongst that, we see that structurally we're making bullish structure. We're forming higher highs and higher lows, higher highs and higher lows, higher highs and higher lows. Okay, meaning amongst that, we should be looking for a bullish move. Okay, because I'm expecting bullishness. The main thing that emphasizes the expected bullishness is yes, the strong breaks above and below. Above the specific structural levels. Okay. But outside of that, the overall structural intent clearly is bullish because we are still continuing to form higher lows, respecting those higher lows and forming new higher highs on the higher time frame. Okay. Even though yesterday price is still very sideways, it's still kind of choppy, but regardless, we're still moving in a bullish direction. Okay. Now, going to the 5 minute time frame after understanding that we should expect bullishness, the structural intent is showing me bullishness. Now we need to find the 7 a.m. pre-market candle. This is one of the two examples that I mentioned previously in the beginning of the video, which is sometimes price forms a drastically sized 7 a.m. pre-market candle like we see in Palantir. Sometimes it forms a small one like we see all the way down here. And sometimes it doesn't form one at all. This is the second example where it forms a small one. Now, why this is important, the size of the candle, because this determines if we need to be a little bit more cautious and manage our risk a little bit better during trading this stock, if we were to trade this stock or not, or if we shouldn't trade it at all. Having this small 7 a.m. pre-market candle means I need to be a little bit more cautious because yes, we formed it, but it's not a drastically sized candle. It's not a really big candle. Okay. So we need to be a little bit more cautious about it. All right. Seeing that, obviously, we're still taking into factor of the obvious that we still did break out in the obvious direction as we expected based on the overall structural intent, which is bullish. We had our in general pullback. And then here's a screenshot right here. I took the trade, caught this entire move before price started dumping all the way back down. All right. Just like that. We broke out in the specific direction based on the structural intent, which is above the 7 a.m. pre-market high. We had our pullback, regardless if it's on the level, within the range, or in general, and price action showed based on the distribution of bullishness, really continuing in the specific direction and doing what it do. And I give all praise and all glory to God for that absolutely banger trade starting off this week. And yeah, now going into the last example, is going to be going back to Palantir. This is going to be an example based on what would show us that we shouldn't trade this stock, essentially. Okay. Now, if you've been paying attention to how I've been speaking and saying specifically the high, specifically the low, specifically based on the strategical direction and intent and whatnot, this is the reason why. Because as price takes out both the high and the low of the 7 a.m. pre-market candle, regardless if the structure is bullish, bearish, or choppy, if we take out both ends, that means we can expect chop. And we can clearly see in Palantir, when we took out both ends, we were clearly choppy as all crap. Okay. Now, the other example of when we shouldn't trade a specific stock, okay, two more. One of them is when price does not form a 7 a.m. pre-market candle. And two, if we go against the opposite, or if we go towards the opposite direction of the structural intent, meaning if we're bearish, but we take out the 7 a.m. pre-market low, two different things. Not happening, okay? Because we would have to wait for it to take out the high, meaning we would have to take out both ends to be able to catch that bullish move. So if we take out the opposite direction of the structural intent, with the 7 a.m. pre-market candles, meaning if we're bullish, we take out the 7 a.m. low. If we're bearish, we take out the 7 a.m. high. We're not trading it. If we take out both ends, the 7 a.m. high and low, we're not trading. If there isn't even a 7 a.m. pre-market candle, period, then we're not trading it. Outside of that, if it forms a small one like we see in J&J right here, that means we're just going to be a little bit more cautious, okay? If it forms on average a drastically sized one, then obviously we're looking for a strong break and close in one specific direction based on the structural intent. Meaning, if we're bearish, we should only be taking out the 7 a.m. pre-market low. If we're bullish, we should only be taking out the 7 a.m. pre-market high. Okay. And yeah, that's really it. Again, we're looking to form, we're looking to draw out the 5 minute time frame. We're looking to draw out the 7 a.m. pre-market candles high and low. The hourly time frame, just a higher time frame. We look at the overall structural intent of the day, of the week, which you're going to be able to see that short-term time frame primarily on the hourly time frame. Sorry, my camera kept cutting out, but because the daily time frame is a bit too condensed of a time frame, and anything under the hourly is a bit too stretched out, so the hourly time frame fits perfectly looking at an overall daily to a weekly range of what you can expect with an overall structural intent. But I hope this video was helpful. God bless, and no Happy New Year's, and let's make a freaking bag. God bless.